Welcome to another edition of AV Rant. I'm Tom Mantry. I'm here with
Rob H. This is AV Rant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. I'm a little bit under the weather,
why
so
isn't
if
there
my
what
voice
happened to
is
the 500
the
graphic?
500. Oh well, yeah, it's episode 501, but there it
Listen, Mr.
is.
Semantic, we're
If you're
using it for at least 10 episodes, so
okay,
put it back
all
up
right.
there.
Well, yeah, I knew you were gonna talk about the announcement thingy that we announced on episode 500. I was gonna surprise us then for the people watching YouTube version of this.
Yes.
But there you go. Let's go back to our faces.
Let's go back to our faces. All right. This is AV Rant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. To get your questions answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. You can CC Rob at AVRant or Tom at AVRant or both if you like. Go to www.avrant.com. Leave us a comment there. Facebook.com/avrantpodcast. Twitter at First Reflect for Rob, at avrant_Tom for me, and at Austin, TEN Pond for our producer, Austin. Austin has his own podcast. It's called We Watch Movies. It's a podcast about shelving systems.
All right.
Shelving systems. Got there eventually. Had nothing. Got to shelving systems. All right, I don't care about
There's
the
gonna be
graphic.
a whole lot of mute button / cough button going on my end. So if there's
That's
just dead
fun.
air for a moment, that's just me choking on the
Choking.
stuff in the back of my throat.
Dying. All right, we announced last week twice on the two-part 500th episodes podcast where we got so caught up we barely have any questions this week, right, Rob?
Yeah, it's a good thing we caught up because can you imagine
Oh my
if we
goodness.
hadn't done the
I
two-part
was
episode,
like,
we had like
I thought we would have
30
5
questions this week.
I thought we were gonna have 5 questions. I was like, 5 questions. We've done an hour. I'll get to bed early. I slept like crap last night. I was really looking forward to going to bed early, and then we've got like 27 questions or something.
What episode was that last week?
500?
Oh, 500. 500.
That's right.
YouTube,
There
by
it
the way,
is.
for the people listening to the audio, YouTube,
There it is.
500.
And we announced last week our SVS contest will be starting on September 1st. I've got the contest all
Okay.
ready to go. It will
Okay.
show up on our website, www.avrant.com. Down on that nice little graphic. All you have to enter, all it will ask you for, is your email address.
All right.
That's it. They're like, well, can you ask them? SVS is like, can you ask them what they want? You know, if they want the 5.1 package of the dual subs. I'm like, "Nah, you ask them. You're gonna have to ask them for their address anyways. Why am I gonna ask them? Just I mean, that's not even cutting the step out because you have to ask them anyhow. You got to get their. I'm not getting your mailing. I don't want your mailing address. Yeah, you might blame me for mailing you something. I'm not going to mail you anything. So all you're going to put in is your email address, and that is it. Email address. Tell your friends. It's going to be big. So dual PB1000s or
Mhm.
Prime 5.1 satellite package.
That's right. 5 satellite speakers with an SB1000 subwoofer.
Right. Very exciting, absolutely free. All it costs you is your email address. So
Yes.
enter, and there is a way the thing works where you can't put your same email address in there over and over again and get a bunch of entries. It will
Okay,
not
good.
let you do that. So that will be sorted out. But tell all your friends, go to all your forums, let people know it's coming because I'm not going to do any of that.
Now, I should clarify because I don't know the answer to this, and Michael did ask just a few minutes ago, U.S. residents only or U.S. and Canada?
Ooh.
Or
I would
yeah.
imagine it's
See?
I would imagine it's any place they ship. That's a good. We need to find that out.
We do really, really need to clarify. It shows you how experienced we are with giveaways, folks.
I actually have
yeah.
experience with giveaways on Audioholics. I used to run the giveaways on Audioholics, but I straight up forgot to ask about that. So I would actually stop the podcast right now and do it because I'm going to forget. But somebody write me a note.
Mhm.
Somebody listening to this, write me a note, send me an email right now that says, don't forget to find out. I'm sure it's going to be USA and Canada for sure. If they ship to that area,
Well, it'll definitely be USA. That is.
I would
a
imagine
given,
Canada
but
would probably fall in there too. But
I would
can't
hope
make any
so.
promises.
I know. See, that's the problem. So we will figure that out by September 1st. We've got a couple more days.
I am
before
hoping
happens.
Austin's been working very diligently behind the scenes to get our new video format sorted out. So for those of you that don't remember, and I got a couple questions about it. The podcast itself is stay exactly as it is. It's 2 hours long. You will get the same podcast. You will download it the same place that you've always downloaded it. It will sound exactly the same. There'll be no difference. We're not going to do a single thing different for the podcast. The difference will be the 2 hour long videos and the live stream. Since I honestly cannot, I'm not keeping up with YouTube, Google, Hangout crap.
YouTube,
they're going to change it again.
I know.
I just started going through it on YouTube. They're like, we need to verify your phone number. I'm like, oh, come on. Are you serious? My phone number now too? Just take some DNA, all right? Just get a little clone of me that you can substitute in after you program it to do whatever it's going to vote for Donald Trump, because that's what they'll have to have. I'm just serious. Stupid. Anyways, so we're just going to chop the videos up into answering people's questions. That's what it's going to be. It's just going to be the answers to the questions. That's the main part of the podcast. Anyways, the rest of this is just, I mean, it's fun. We're talking about the news. We're talking about that, but it doesn't translate long term. And I think a lot of people won't get through the first 10 minutes of our podcast of us just talking about with stuff like this, which will be a couple of weeks, a month from now, be completely moot, just to get to the questions that they want answered. So we're just going to put the questions up on YouTube. Still figuring that out. Austin's working very hard. He's got the intro part kind of down. Do you have the graphic for the SVS contest?
Not loaded up in a way that I can show, and I don't even know if that's the final and official thing. So
that's the one I'm using. So I mean, unless somebody says something different, that's the one I'm using. So yeah, it basically it just says happy 500th episode. So that basically it has some pictures. But anyways, we'll get that up. You'll see that on September 1st at 00.01 a.m.
Okay.
That's when it's coming out.
Eastern time? Sure.
Eastern, I guess.
Why
whatever.
not?
I didn't check the time zone. It's a time zone. I don't know what time zone
Probably your time zone.
It's
all right.
well,
enough of all that. We have listeners of the week to thank.
Yes, we do. Listeners of the week this week are Jay, Charles, Jim, Carl, and Bruce.
Woo.
Jay, Charles, Jim, Carl, and Bruce went to www.avrant.com, clicked on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and left us a PayPal donation using either their PayPal account or a credit card. That PayPal donation goes into the AV Rant coffers. A lot of them came along with messages of thanks. Jay said, "Hey guys, just want to congratulate you on all the 500th, you all on the 500th show. AV Rant has become my favorite podcast. I've almost caught up, starting from episode 300 about 4 months ago."
That's a lot of podcasts.
That's 600 hours. I've pretty much given up on the forums because of this show. It's pretty much. Didn't completely.
I haven't completely given up. I need the forums. I wouldn't have the info that I have if it weren't for the forums.
We're going to talk more about that if we get to the end of all these.
That's right.
These things. So thank you, Jay, Charles, Jim, Carl, and Bruce for your donations.
Yes, thank you all, gentlemen. Very much appreciated.
Jason S. ordered a pair of PC 2000 subs from SVS and let them know it was on our recommendation. He was originally planning to buy just one PC 2000 to pair with his Axiom EP500. I read this to my wife, by the way. This is a side. I read this to my wife. He said, but when he showed his wife a picture of the PC 2000, this is the cylinder subs.
Yep.
She said, I like the look of that a lot better than that big box, meaning the Axiom. She said, order two. So Jason was not about to argue with that. So he went from an EP, which, by the way, the PC 2000 and the Axiom EP500 would have paired just fine.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Been just fine.
We said so.
That
was our advice.
Now he gets 2 new subs. And he could trade that EP500 too. I'm sure he can get quite a bit of money back for that when he sells it. So that's good. You will help pay for at least one of those subs, I would think. You're going to be able to. Much. I think my EP500 I got because that's not something I got for a review. That's something I bought myself, and when I sold it, I think I sold it for quite a good coin considering it was in Australia and nobody knew who the hell Axiom was. All right, because I wasn't about to throw that thing back in the box and bring it back. I just wasn't going to do it. It's too heavy. All right, in the news. From Infinite Gary, the Vice Chairman of Lionsgate, Michael Burns, says DVD is not dead. In a recent speech to investors, he said the DVD business is going to be around a lot longer than people think. It's still a massive business for us. It's not going away.
Yeah, to the tune of about $500 million a year still, apparently.
Yeah, I'm not saying that this isn't true, but every time somebody says something like this, it's right before they pull out of whatever business it is. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here.
Well, a lot
That's
of
not
what
what I'm
was
saying.
covered in the article, and we'll have the links to the articles and to products that we recommend and all that stuff over at avrant.com. So come check out the show notes if you want to see the links for things. But yeah, in this article, they're mostly talking about the transition into digital distribution, into downloads and online distribution for their content. But this was one of the quotes in there. They're like, package media, it's still a $500 million. That's just for Lionsgate, which is one of the smaller studios, all things considered.
No, but they just stopped making VCRs, and they were still selling how many 800,000 units or something?
Yeah, I think it was 400,000 or something like that a year.
I mean,
yeah,
that's $500 million, isn't it? I mean, they're $20.
Yeah, well, if they don't care, just give it all to me. I'll take $500 million a year. I can live off of that.
I'm not $500 million. That's not $500 million. But anyways, it's still a lot. It's still a lot of money. It's $500,000. I mean, I love $500,000. You give me $500,000 right now, I'd be happy as a clamp. I'd make VCRs if I could, which I can't. Certainly can't make 400,000 of them. Anyways, every time I hear something like this, it makes me shiver just a little bit. It has that whole Enron, oh no, everything's fine, investors. Don't worry that I'm selling all my stock sort of sound to it. I'm sure the DVD is going to be around for quite a bit longer. There's a lot of people in a lot of places where DVDs can't be upgraded. I'm thinking cars. I'm thinking portable players. I'm thinking people who won't upgrade, have no reason to ever upgrade, that sort of thing. And as long as Blu-ray players and ultra Blu-ray players, which I'm pretty sure those are DVD backwards compatible, as long as they're backwards compatible, there's always going to be, not always, but there's for quite some time going to be a demand for DVD.
Yep.
Yeah, and plus there's a lot of people who just don't want to upgrade. All right, Antoine on Twitter says HSU is offering a Labor Day sale on their STF2, which is going to be $319, and their VTF2 Mark IV for $499. And those models will be on sale over Labor Day, which is that, when is that, this weekend?
September 5th.
Oh,
is Labor Day. Yeah, it'll keep going for a while after that. It always does.
Yeah, it kind of rolls over.
Those are a couple of their less expensive models. There is a shipping charge on top of that. So that is not an all-in price. There is still shipping to pay on top of that.
Right. The PlayStation Plus subscriptions are increasing in price starting September 22nd. Instead of $50 a year or $18 every 3 months, it'll now be $60 a year or $25 every 3 months. In Canada, due to the exchange rate, is now a whopping $70 a year or $30 for 3 months.
And I say, if you can, go buy one of those 12-month subscription cards, or several of them for that matter, because they're not supposed to expire. So you should be able to buy those 12-month subscription cards at the current price, and I don't know, stockpile them, something.
Yeah, I don't know about that. It's worth a try. It's like that whole. It's like buying those, putting all your money in stamps. You know, the stamps that. It's just it mails a letter no matter what the price is.
Oh right, yeah.
Put your money in that, and then the price of stamps go up, and then suddenly your stamps are worth a lot more. I don't know. Somebody's going to go at some point. No, we don't take those anymore. But anyways,
could be.
Nothing official yet, but Dave Zat that's a lot of Z's. Z-A-T-Z. Zats.
Yes.
That's okay, whatever. From zatsnotfunny.com has pieced together information indicating 5 new Roku models: the Express and the Express Plus, the Premier and the Premier Plus, and the Ultra. The last two Premier Plus and the Ultra will have HDR support, supposedly.
Yeah, so apparently they're moving away from the just numbers, like they had Roku 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now they are giving them names. But
why do we need 5 models from Roku, or some of them?
Well, apparently, like the Express is the most basic. The Express Plus will have like extra ports. The Premier is like the 4K version. The Premier Plus is the 4K with HDR, and then the Ultra is like the whiz bang every port thing version. So
see, Roku to me still smacks of a company that's in its infancy. I know it's not, but it does. You know, when a company,
good media streamer.
Well, I'm not saying it. I think it's great. Yeah. But at some point, somebody's going to walk in there, buy the whole company, and go, "Why do we have 5 models? We need 2 max.
Maybe 2.
Figure it out. Figure it out. We need 2 max, and maybe a stick on top of that, but really not even that. We need 2." And they're going to just go, "What? But some people want this, and some people want this," and you're going to be like, "I don't care." It's ridiculous to have 5 models. It's ridiculous. They don't need 5 models. They need 2. They need the regular and the plus, or the regular and the ultra or something. And
Yeah.
the ultra has, it's like Oppo. Oppo's is hey, you want a great Blu-ray player? We got that. You want all the bells and whistles? We got that too. Everything in between, you're like, it's not a smorgasbord. You can't just pick what you want. You get what we got. All right, the fall TV season is nearly upon us. For a comprehensive list of every show's premiere date, check out IGN's fall. This feels like an advertisement. Fall 2016 TV preview by Matt Fowler. Is he paying us for this? It sounds like he's paying.
No, I just enjoy the way he writes.
Okay,
he's a good writer.
It does feel very much like, hey, the fall TV season is nearly upon us.
No, it's actually like a nicely comprehensive list. I like things that are just a simple list. I don't like things where you have to click through a stupid slideshow or they give you their opinions on everything. It's like it's a list in order of like, here's all the dates and here's everything, including stuff that's like premiering on Netflix or Amazon Prime Video or anything like that. So it's like, it's all there. There's hundreds of shows coming out this fall. It will be impossible to watch everything. So anyway.
That's not gonna
I
stop
like
you
TV.
from trying, though, is it?
I know. I used to try to literally watch every Bila. That is out the window. There's no way it can happen. It's just too much.
All right, Infinite Gary. I guess with these comments, we're on comments. Infinite Gary doesn't think Rob's pronunciation of route or route is so strange. Ever heard of the song Route 66? I have heard of it, and it's still not the way you pronounce router. I don't know what to tell you.
Get your kicks on Route 66. It would sound strange if they sang "Get your kicks on Route 66." That would sound strange to the ear. We're familiar with that.
Guarantee you, most people, when they sing the song, they sing it exactly like that. When they read the sign, they say route or route.
They say route?
They say route. It doesn't really matter. Route 66 might be pronounced that way, but everybody else says it route. All right. Bill thanks us for the speaker advice. He's looked into the KEF Q 500 towers we mentioned. This is probably going to buy them.
He was the fellow with the wide open space room, and he had the TV entertainment center with the movable shelves. So I suggested Ascend. You suggested KEF, and I agreed with KEF because if he does have the in-wall surrounds and surround backs, and KEF's in-walls are a very good match. So there you go. We approve.
Wesley says, just for info regarding the DTS-X update to Denon Receivers, his AVR X4200W received the update back in June. And Michael says his Denon AVR X1200W just got the DTS-X firmware updated this weekend. So it's apparently rolling out as we speak for your 7-channel.
Yeah, models. The comment about the X4200, it was the 9 and 11 speaker-capable models. They got it first quite a ways back. So we were wondering where the update for the 7-speaker maximum models was, but it is rolling out. So we had the 2200 a week and a half ago, and now the 1200 just this past weekend. So it's on its way. I don't know where the Onkyo update is.
It's on fire. They accidentally set it on fire. That's what happens.
Could be.
It's never gonna. Am I ever gonna stop saying that? I think the answer to that question is no. I think the answer is no. Scott, in reference to our recent discussion about the perception of receiver brands sounding different from each other, i.e., that they don't. During his recent theater build, he had the opportunity to directly compare the Denon he already had to the new Yamaha he was buying for his theater. Speaker and content were the same for both models, and his conclusion was that when upmixing and auto EQ were turned off, they both sounded great, and they sounded the same. That was until several forum members showed up at his house and held a gun to his head until he noticed a difference, which is that happens sometimes.
Tongue in cheek.
That's why we don't give out our all right, Scott, Ian, and Ara, sorry.
Yeah.
That's why I'm reading things fast. From the HC guys, well, I mean, Scott and Ian are people, and then Ara from the HC guys shared more videos and tutorials explaining PLEX Kodi and the SPMC fork for Kodi and the NVidia Shield. So we need to add those to our. I have made a video tutorial list.
Sure, yeah.
So we need to do that. We can do that tonight. Somebody write an email.
We'll throw some links in there. Lots of things to remind Tom.
We got to remind Tom to do stuff. Also remind Tom to figure out how to give, other than just giving out his password, how to give Austin the access to my YouTube account so he can post videos for me.
That would be good.
Yes, I tried to do it today. I couldn't get it done. Ian wrote, congratulations on 500 episodes. He's been a listener since year one. Ian has an NVIDIA Shield, and his MKVs with DTS HDMA seem to play fine with the... with the info on his receiver listing DTS HDMA as the audio source. But it sounded to Ian in episode 499 that Rob said the only way to play lossless audio from Plex was to use their Plex Media Player app. Is this correct? Is this receiver lying to him?
Oh dear. So yes, can of worms when it comes to talking about Plex, because oh my lord. I tried, I mentioned this in the comments to my YouTube tutorial. I am not a Plex expert. I was like looking at a lot of this stuff for the first time myself, and it is very difficult because, oh man, if you try to read the help and support forums, it's like the amount of conflicting information or the number of people who are like, I can't get audio, or I can't get surround sound to work at all, and then it takes like 12 messages back and forth before you find out, oh, they just connected an HDMI plug directly to their TV and then tries to use ARC to go to their, sound bar or something, and that's why they can get surround sound. Like, there's so much of that, so sifting through it all. So all I can do is, this is secondhand knowledge. I don't have firsthand knowledge. I don't have an NVIDIA Shield TV that I can play with myself to figure it out, but supposedly, there was the 3.2 update earlier this summer to the NVIDIA Shield TV. Apparently, after that update, DTS HD Master Audio pass-through was working, but Dolby True HD pass-through still was not, which is why Scott was saying he couldn't get Atmos to work with the NVIDIA Shield TV's PLEX app, the PLEX Client App. He couldn't get Atmos to work, which would be true because that's based on Dolby True HD, but supposedly DTS HD Master Audio is working anyway. All of it kind of aside, right now, most people who are using the NVIDIA Shield TV, they're like, well, it can work as a PLEX server, and it works very nicely as a PLEX server. So if you are feeding other devices inside or outside your home on your network, it does a very good job of transcoding and translating it to those other devices. Then when you're playing back locally using the NVIDIA Shield TV to actually play the content, for people who are wanting Atmos and DTS:X to actually get out of the machine, the hardware can do it, but they're using this SPMC fork of Kodi, because the official Kodi app, apparently it doesn't work, but there's this SPMC version of Kodi, and it works there. Yay! HD audio actually bitstreams out with that. So it's a mess. I can't tell you for sure. There was another video, we'll have the link to this video as well, where a guy was reviewing several different Plex clients, and he was saying he got HD audio to come out of the NVIDIA Shield TV, including Dolby True HD. So I don't know is the answer. I honestly don't know for sure.
This is exactly what people are. Tom, why don't you stream stuff and get a HDPC and or an NVIDIA Shield? I'm like, this is why. This is why. I have 3 children and a wife who are completely and totally unwilling to be flexible around me freaking out because something's not working in this house. And I cannot go down the rabbit hole of this whole hot mess. I can't do it. The other day, I got a phone call. What was it? I got a phone call about having to. This was like Friday night. I got a phone call that I had something to do Monday. At the same time, I picked up a piece of paper that said I had missed my jury duty, and at the same time, I was realizing that the person who was asking me to work on Monday was going to conflict with something else I had going on, and I was trying to cook all at the same time, and I freaked out.
Multitasking.
I do not do that thing that you just said. I just start yelling at people until I could get to the thing I had to deal with. I was like, yes, I'll figure out the work thing. I'll be there. Bye. Well, how did I miss this jury duty? And somebody's turned off the stove before I burn that thing. It's just, I can't do that.
Well, anyway, just to clarify what I was trying to say in my tutorial, I was talking specifically about doing it all on a Windows 10 PC. And in that case, Windows Media Player app is the way. Also, aside from that, Windows Media Player app, I know works. It for sure passes out Dolby True HD and DTS HD Master Audio. I saw Atmos and DTS:X both light up on my Marantz front panel. So that one I know for sure. As far as the PLEX Client app for the NVIDIA Shield TV, it seems like a lot of people are saying they can get DTS HD Master Audio out of it. A lot of people are saying they can't get Dolby True HD out of it, but one guy said he could. I don't know who to believe. So until I actually have the darn thing and can do it myself, I'm afraid I just don't.
You should ask NVIDIA to send you one. Say you need it for the podcast. Just email them. I'll get you a
Maybe.
I'll get you a contact thing. Oh yeah, somebody just sent me some random email. Oh, so and so, we're so I represent so and so. We've got these new headphones coming out. Do you want them? I'm like, yep. I'm like, I'll review them for the podcast. I don't care. All right. No, seriously though, let's talk afterwards about NVIDIA. We got a lot to talk about afterwards. We might not be able to have that. All right. This is new for this week. Ted, once again, has some final follow-up in his search for on-wall speakers. Remember, he was looking at the totems, and then he was thinking about Ascend, but they're not out yet, and he was thinking about
the M&Ks and
he got the
like
M&Ks
them, return
and
them.
then sent those back because, yes. Anyways, he has now compared the M&K's MP500 Mark IIs with the Totem Tribe 3s in his actual room, which is something that we suggested. The totems had a much larger vertical and horizontal soundstage, but the mids and the depth were according to Ted. And anyways, the totems make those beak things, which apparently Ted just can't handle that.
Can't get past that.
Doesn't like the beaks. And believe I don't like the beaks either, but well, whatever. So now he's either going to buy the Legacy Audio silhouettes or wait and see what David Fabricant at Ascend comes up with for on walls. Any thoughts?
Yeah, so the only thing I know is coming for sure from Ascend Acoustics are those Sierra Sat, which are on-wall speakers. They're sort of a slightly miniaturized version of the Sierra 2 drivers. It's the same tweeter, as the Sierra 2, but it's a slightly smaller woofer so that they can put it in a more on-wall friendly cabinet, which honestly would be fine for Ted's room, but I know Ted is so consumed with the idea of extremely loud output capabilities, despite
I would think that. Why isn't RBH? Does RBH make an on wall still? They used to make this really fantastic. It was like really, it was very thin, but it was huge because they didn't have a lot of
there doesn't really appear to be a whole lot when it comes to on-wall from RBH. It's in-wall. They got plenty of in-wall.
They made that on-wall for just a little while, I think. And it really sounded good. I heard that one.
Kind of similar to Focal, because I would point him maybe to the Electra BE Focal speakers as well. I think I've mentioned them before.
Drivers, yeah.
Yeah, and before, like what they have is actually an in-wall model, but they had an optional frame that you could add to it, because it's a sealed box anyway. Even if it's in its in-wall mode, it's actually a sealed box, self-contained. And then they had an optional frame that you could put around it to make it into an on-wall, but they've taken that away now. Now they don't sell those optional frames anymore. Now it's just an in-wall speaker. So I'm not sure what's going on.
Why do we have to have on-wall, Ted? Why does Ted have to have on-wall? He just wants them?
Yeah, his wife says they cannot have any speakers that touch the floor, and they have to be not very deep and not stick out from the wall. And I think you're going to end up with Legacy Audio, man. They're expensive as all get out, but I think that's where you're going to end up.
If you like them, you should go with them. That's what I say. I say if you already know something, I mean, we said that about the totems too, but you got them home and tested them and didn't like them as much. That's fine. If you should bring those Legacy Audio home and see if your wife likes them. If she does, then just...
I mean, they do have the Pixel instead of with the Silhouette, which is a big speaker and expensive. They do have the Pixel, which is the smaller version of it, the two-way version of it. Just a tweeter and a woofer.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. He's got a small room anyways.
I promise you the output will be fine, Ted. I promise you.
Just bring those home and test them out. Yeah. Bring those home and test them out. Trust us, Ted. We know what we're talking about. I've never heard Legacy Audio, but trust me. Justin wants to buy a receiver that can do 7.1.2, has Odyssey X, all the stuff plus XT32, and isn't too expensive. I think you can have 2 of those things.
Well, it depends on your definition of too expensive.
That is true. So far, he's considering either a Denon RX 4200W or a Rant SR 6010 from Accessories for Less. Are there others he should look at as well?
So, not really. I mean, the only alternative I could... not cheaper. That could do 7.1.2 at a minimum. Because anything that would be less expensive would top out at 5.1.2, which I don't totally recommend for an Atmos setup. I think 9 speakers is important if you're really doing Atmos. And then if you want...
amp too, aren't these? These are all going to take an external amp?
Yeah, these ones have 7 amplifiers built in. You do need at least a 2-channel external amplifier to bring them up to 7.1.2. If you want Odyssey XT32, then you have to stick with Denon and Marantz these days. So there aren't really alternatives. The only one I could mention would be Yamaha's RX-A 2050 or RX-A 2060. Those ones actually have 9 amps built in, but they top out at 9 speakers. You can't expand the 2050 or the 2060 further. They can't expand them to 11 speakers. That would be the alternative. But then you won't get Odyssey XT32 because
you'll get. Do they have the RSC, the Wipeout?
Yeah, it'll be
RSC?
Wipeout RSC. Yeah,
That's probably be pretty good too.
I mean, it's okay, but honestly, I see no reason because it's still more expensive and you're not getting the version of the room correction that you want. So no, those 2 models really will be the choices to pick from.
So they are currently priced at $800 for the Marantz and $900 for the Denon at Accessories for Less. Do we think the prices might drop even further once the new models come out around September? He's hoping to buy before Christmas, but otherwise he's willing to wait a little if he can get a good deal. Should he wait, or are prices pretty much what they're going to be for the rest of the year? This is a conundrum here
because these have been popular models, and even at Accessories for Less, they're like selling out of a lot of Denon
last
Marantz
year,
models.
or was it this time last year? Maybe a little bit before this time last year. We were talking about the X4000, and people were like, "Should I get it?" I'm like, "Not only should you get it, you should get it right now because it keeps going in and out of stock."
Yeah.
So
I mean, in all likelihood, there'll be like one last shipment of the final refurbished stock when they're completely clearing out the warehouse when the brand new models come in. But the 6011 is already available. You can already get the Marantz 6011 brand new. Right. You know, so that's $1,400, which is what the 6010 sold for when it was at full retail price. So, you know, $800, not a bad deal. Now, I'll mention I have seen them once in a while dip as low as about $700, right around that $699 price point. So basically, if you ever see that, if you see either of these models at about $699, just snap it, because even if it goes down another $50, why beat yourself up about that? Like, you know,
I couldn't be bothered
if it gets down
go ahead
there.
and order it. I mean, I'm cheap as it gets, but I would rather spend the extra $100 just to make sure I'm getting the receiver I want.
To me, $800 on either of these is a good deal.
Yeah,
that's a good deal. If you find it at $700, that's a fantastic deal. Snap it up, and I don't think you'll regret it. So, I mean, that's for everybody, not just Justin.
So, anyways, I guess when you replied to him via email, he mentioned that the SR6010 and you mentioned, or he mentioned?
I mentioned.
Okay, that the Marantz and the Denon can both do a 5.2.4 setup, but not a 7.2.4. But Justin was actually planning on a 7.2.2 setup. 7 regular speakers and 1 subwoofer that he already owns, then adding a second sub and 2 Atmos speakers. He just wants to avoid any confusion. You can do that with these receivers, correct?
Yes, you can. Yeah,
you do need an amp though. You will need an amp.
Yeah, you will need at least a 2-channel external amp. You can have more. You could have a 7-channel external amp and still, you know, only end up using 2 of the internal amps of either of these. That's fine. But yeah, you need at least 2 channels of external amplification, and 5.2.4, 7.2.2, both of those equal 9 speakers and 2 subwoofers. I mean, technically, you could do a 9.2 setup. You could have the 7 traditional speakers, front wides, and no overhead speakers. That is also a thing you could do. But the point is, these ones top out at being able to run 9 speakers, not 11. So, just for other folks out there. And actually, there was a bit of breaking news. Justin found an X4200W for, I think it was $689 or something like that. So he snapped it up. He took the advice. He snapped it up. So good. I don't think you'll regret that. Don't torture yourself. Don't even look at prices from now on, because you'll find it for $20 less or something and think, if only I had waited. No, you got a terrific deal at that price.
That's the first thing. I've given that advice for probably, how long does this pop back? After you buy something, get off the forums.
That's right.
Stop looking at accessories for less or reviews. Don't look at anything. Just spend 6 months in isolation with your new gear. Do nothing else.
Yep.
And then you can come back after you have some perspective on it, and then you can read some stuff and say, well, I don't care what these guys say. I like it.
That's right.
That'll be good. All right. Lior on Twitter. I guess he came from Twitter. We've mentioned the upcoming Odyssey app a few times. Is there an official web page to find more information? I'm guessing this is going to come out at
CEDIA,
probably.
I think so, because that's right around the time when all of these new models will be launching. and I'm sure they will have their announcement there. So basically, the information I had was mostly coming from AV forums, the guys over in the UK,
England,
because they visited the actual European official launch announcement thing for all these new models. So just for reference, the new Marantz models are ending in the number 11, and the new Denon models are going to be like the 3300 and the 4300 and the 6300.
I hate the model numbers of these things. I really do.
They have 300 in the Denons and 11 at the end of the Marantzes. And they're doing this thing where the way AV Forums explained it, basically Odyssey is sort of phasing out the whole Odyssey Pro side of things because people weren't paying the $700 and hiring an Odyssey calibrator. They're like, well, you're just going to use the mic that comes with it, which isn't as great a mic, but whatever it'll do. And now you use this app, which is like, I think it's £20 and $30. So I've been saying $20 this whole time, but I think it's £20 and $30. Still pretty darn affordable, and it lets you manually change the target curve, which is like the one thing that a lot of people have wanted to be able to do with Odyssey. I don't even really think that's truly necessary, but since it's an affordable price, there it'll be. But yeah, I've been getting all the information from the forums as well. There is no official page from Odyssey about it yet, but I don't doubt the reports because it wasn't as though AV Forums were the only people reporting that. Everyone who visited that event was like, there's this new Odyssey app. It costs £20, so it's coming. We'll just have to wait a little bit.
That's $30 I'm never going to have to spend right there.
It could be. I'm fine. I am fine with the flat target curve.
That is the one I want anyways. That's the only one I want. Andrew on Facebook. So Andrew is the guy with the pair of vintage SVS 1646 passive subs. 16-inch diameter, 46 inches tall. And it's it's probably got a 12-inch.
It's a 12-inch driver in there. Yep.
It's a cylinder sub from SVS. It's an older one. Right. They're passive, which means that you could do it back in those days. You could buy the cylinders and then get the amp separate or provide your own amp. The amp was usually sold as a crown amp that went with it.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. As great as those subs are, his 15 by 19 foot upstairs theater room being open via stairwell to the entire first floor of this house has left him still wanting more bass. He has an extra SVS PB1000 that he could add to the theater and would be willing to buy another PB1000 to make 4 total subs if this would help his pressurization issues. Will it help enough to be worth it? Let me ask you a question there, Andrew. What is the deal with not having a door? Let me think about this. A sub is how much? What, like first of all, a PB is like $500-600, right? Is that what this is?
So it's gonna be $500 for another PB1000.
Yeah. So for $500, you could totally get somebody to come over there and put a door in this place. And
I think so.
Your pressurization issues would be a thing of the past.
Definitely.
Number one. Number two, I don't really think that that an extra PB1000 is going to help you all that much.
I mean, honestly, the only way to let's say you had your dual 1646s and you had dual PB1000s. The only way to actually use those PB1000s to help you get louder would be to stack, like basically put one of your 1646s on top of one of the PB1000s.
Yeah.
Right? Because putting them, spreading them around your room actually very unintuitively could actually make your bass quieter. Because you're getting so much sound wave interaction that it could actually make your bass sound quieter if you spread them around the room. You'd want to stack them, and you wouldn't want to stack the two PB1000s together and the two 1646s together, because the two 1646s will grossly outmatch the output capabilities of
Plus, you can't stack those two cylinders anyways.
Well, you could put them right side by side, right? So yeah, I mean, about the only way would be to sit, put the PB1000 right next to a 1646, and then on the opposite side of the room, put a PB1000 right next to a 1646. But that's not going to give you a ton of extra headroom. It really is. I mean, you'll maybe get a 4 or 5 dB boost, which is not insignificant. Don't get me wrong.
It's not going to be enough. I don't think it's going to be enough.
No, I don't think it's going to pressurize your whole house. So yeah, whatever money you were going to spend on subs, spend it on a door. Even if we're talking a pocket door that you can, like an accordion door that you can just stretch across, because that makes a big difference. It gives something for the sound waves to reflect off of instead of just escaping into the wild. So, yeah, I think this is doable.
Yeah. Door. Andrew. Door. And then room treatments. All right. Infinite Gary. Okay, I guess we have some pictures here. You'll probably show those eventually.
Oh, I'm gonna switch to our 500 as I bring those up on screen. Here we go.
All right, Gary got his Revell a Revel, whatever. C208 center speaker hooked up in his kitchen, so now he's enjoying glorious mono.
So here was his old setup. If you're watching the YouTube video, this was with his soundbar, and now here is his big honkin' Revel C208 center speaker, where the soundbar used to be.
Interesting enough, his Lexicon MC8 Pre-Pro offers 3 5.1 mono listening modes, but the surround and logic variants just sound weird.
Yeah, so he was showing it. It actually shows on the front display 5.1 mono, which of course means a 5.1 signal is coming in, like your Dolby Digital 5.1 from your cable TV, HD TV cable provider, and then it turns it into mono. So it says 5.1 mono, and then, they give the logic versions, because Lexicon always had their Logic 7, right? Like, part of Harman.
It was Logic 7, because it's Harman. That's right.
That's right. So
I haven't seen that in years.
They had 5.1 mono logic and 5.1 mono surround, which, surprise, surprise, adds some reverb to try and give you the effect of surround sound from one speaker.
What do you think you are, Yamaha? Weird. Let's be real.
I know, right?
All right. I think that's just okay. Anyways, since the MC8 doesn't have any HDMI inputs, he's running HDMI from his cable box to his TV for video and running a separate optical cable to the MC8 for audio. The audio seems to be slightly ahead of the video, so it's a little bit out of sync. The MC8 does offer a manual audio delay adjustment that allows him to improve the sync. His only other audio connection option would be to retain the Dolby Digital audio. So that would retain the Dolby Digital audio would be a digital coax cable instead of the optical. Any chance changing to that could improve the AV sync issue? No, not really. Going out into your TV and back out, boy, talk about the input they give the least number of craps about. It would be that one right there. They literally could care less. Like, all of the care and stuff, they were like, okay, the new dude, the intern, have him do the output thing. That's what he can do, because if he messes it up, like 5 people will complain. We can totally handle that.
The reason there's an AV synchronization issue is because the video being fed by HDMI, now coming out of a cable box, it's going to be 1080i or 720p. That's going into his OLED display, not his 4K. He has a 1080p OLED in his kitchen. But it's having to either deinterlace the 1080i or upscale the 720p. In other words, there's some video processing going on with that signal, and that takes a little bit of time. We're talking in the order of tens of milliseconds, but it takes a little bit of time for them to process that video, which is why the audio, which has no delay associated to its processing virtually at all, it's coming in a little bit ahead of the video, because the video is being processed. So since it's not all going over one cable and there's no automatic HDMI AV syncing going on, his audio is preceding his video. Now that's good, because most pre-pros and receivers allow you to delay the audio. It's really annoying when the audio is lagging the video, because then there's nothing you can do about it. So he has the manual adjustment. Honestly, there's no point in going in less than 50 millisecond chunks, because your human perception will never notice if it's less than 50 milliseconds. So don't go in 5 millisecond chunks and keep checking it. You're never going to notice. So go in 50 millisecond chunks, but eventually you'll get it so that it looks like the mouths are moving at the right time, unlike our YouTube video.
I'm going to tell you about that. All right, since Rob has the Sound Acoustic Sierra Horizon RAL Center, which is front ported and should perform fine being close to a wall, and I have the Aperion Audio Veris Grand Center, which has a boundary compensation switch, and if it's got any ports, they're on the front too. There's none on the back. How would we rank these these speakers? Well, clearly, mine's the best.
That's including his Revel C 208.
Since I haven't heard the other two, clearly mine's the best. Clearly. Mine's the superior speaker.
All right.
And Rob, what do you think?
Well, it is going to sound awfully biased, but I think the Ascend Acoustics.
There you go.
RAL is the top.
We could be a help.
I think it is, and I would kind of put the other two neck and neck. I've heard
the Revel, so.
I think the Sierra RAL speakers are closer in, I'm not going to say they sound identical, but I've often talked about sort of in the same sort of ballpark when it comes to overall sound quality. I think they're closer to like the Revel Ultima series, which Gary already has the Voice 2, which is part of the Ultima series down in his actual theater. So I think the Sierra RAL is closer to that in out-and-out performance, and it's because it has the faster transient response, higher extension, so you get all of those super high little harmonics in there that might add a little bit of sense of air, but mostly it's the delineation of notes in the treble that you definitely get from that really fast transient response. But that axially stabilized tweeter in the Hyperion, really, really good and really, really high power handling, which is awesome. And then you've got an aluminum dome tweeter in this Revel, so yeah,
I mean,
that's how I would
I
rank
think
them.
what Gary's looking for here is some sort of idea if one type of tweeter is inherently superior to the other.
Yeah, you can't make that huge a
You
generalization.
can't make that generalization, Gary. You can't. Now, you can take a really good tweeter like the one that raw tweeter and stick it in a crappy speaker and it's going to sound crappy.
Oh, you
So,
can still make a crappy speaker if you're bad at designing speakers. So yeah.
lastly, he asks, we also recommended the KEF Q Series last week. Well, it's clearly a less expensive option. How would we rank the Q Series center speaker compared to the other three? Again, have not heard the center. I've heard the towers,
Right.
but not the center. And the towers sound very good. They're very good. They're not as good as my Hyperion audio.
Yeah.
First grants, but then again, they cost a heck of a lot less.
That's right.
I mean, I would say for their price, they sound very good.
Yep. Yeah, I'm in agreement here. I don't think I would rank the KEF Q series equal to the three that we've just talked about. But then again, they're much less expensive. I think if you looked at the KEF R series, perhaps though, now you're starting to get there. So and they have those LS50s as well, which are even a step above that.
Right.
But yeah, no, I would maybe, if you're interested in sort of that coaxial speaker design, I would definitely maybe look at the KEF R series to go up against these other ones. It could play in there.
Yeah, they have that the tangerine waveguide thing they got on there now. It's all kinds of crazy stuff they did. I really like the KEF speakers. They've put out some
I mean,
stuff.
make no mistake. When we're starting to get into these sort of price classes, we're talking subtle differences.
Yeah,
for sure. Big time diminishing returns.
The kind of differences where when you go from one house to the other, you're just going, I don't know. It sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't really tell. And you put them in your house side by side, and you A/B them back and forth. Then you can start to tease out those differences.
That's right.
But when you're not doing that, you're like, I don't know. It sounds like a great theater to me. And that's the way it usually ends up being. I mean, we don't have an audio memory for that one. All right, let's go on. Will on Facebook. Will says, "What's the name of the company that can print images onto acoustic fabric, panel fabric? He would like to get some of his favorite movie posters printed." So we have our listener who does this, James.
Yes,
right?
James.
RainyLakeAudio.com.
That's right. Yep.
And then there was the other one. Well,
The
Rob.
other one.
Rob W. Right?
That was our listener who made use of the company called Spoonflower.
There you go.
So Spoonflower is the one, because they're very inexpensive, honestly. I have not seen anyone doing this for less money. So yeah, Spoonflower, if you're buying from them and you're getting the fabric at the same time, we recommend their quilting weight cotton. But if you want a wider bolt of fabric, they have their silky file. So, which is how you pronounce that word, by the way. I saw it all over the web, like people saying fail, and I'm like, no, it's file. If you even look it up, Faille.
Oh.
It's file.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
So, there you go.
I would have said something completely different than either of those two things, but
There
I like
you
to
go.
mess up words. I say
Faille.
All right. Could we go over, it's again, Will, could we go over how to do a dual subwoofer setup in a step-by-step manner? His two subwoofers are both the same model, and he has them positioned on the front wall and the back wall diagonally across from each other, i.e. near the front left corner and near the right rear corner. His receiver is a Yamaha, so it offers YPOW auto setup, but we've mentioned level matching, adjusting the phase of each subwoofer, adjusting the distance of each subwoofer, focusing on uniformity across all seats, aiming for linearity, and EQing the subwoofers individually and in mono. It's so confusing.
Fair enough.
Should he do exactly, and especially in what exact order? Now, which YPOW does he have? Does he have dual subwoofer? Will it calibrate dual subs?
Now, I'm not aware of any YPOW that offers individual subwoofer calibration.
Oh, the Pre-Pro definitely did it because they had...
Well, individual distances, but Do you get individual EQ as well?
Yeah, I
in
mean,
any of them?
it
Oh,
had
you did?
it had
Okay.
front, back. It had
Oh, right,
mono.
right.
It had the
The
whole
front
thing.
back
So
thing.
yeah, there's no reason to think that it couldn't do it. But let's
Which
pretend it
causes
doesn't.
problems.
Let's just,
Sure.
for sake of argument, pretend that it doesn't do that. Okay. So this is what you're going to do.
Yes.
Step one. Now, we talk about a lot of different stuff, and let's just get this out of the way. We talk about a lot of different stuff on here because people have unusual setups. And when they have unusual setups and they non-optimal placements, which you have optimal placements, non-optimal placement is when you have to start dealing with things like phases and distances and all this other stuff. What you're going to want to do is, if you have an SPL meter, the easiest way to do this is to send the test tone that your receiver will send, plug one subwoofer into the output there.
Subwoofer one output. Yeah.
Yeah. And have the subwoofer play the test tone. Look at your C-weighted slow meter. Don't use your iPhone one. It just doesn't work. It just your real meter. Look at that. Calibrate to 72 dB. No, 73 dB. 73?
No, 72. 72 is fine. Yeah. So, well, let's start at the real number one. The real number one is try to position your two subwoofers across the room from one another. And if they are not in the middle of the wall, so middle of the front wall, middle of the back wall, or middle of the left wall, middle of the right wall, if they are not in those positions, if they are offset in some way, so if one is in the front left corner, but the other one in the rear right corner, or if it's on the front wall but towards the front left corner, then put the other one on the back wall towards the rear right corner, the same distance as the one on the front towards the left. So diagonally opposite across the room from one another. That's step number one, is try to position them that way. If you can't, that's when we'll go to a different step. But number one is try to, and then let's say either you can or you can't. Either way, step number two is going to be level matching them. So that's what Tom is talking about now. You do one at a time. You, just to be safe, turn the master volume dial of your AV receiver all the way up until it says 0 dB, because when you're doing the manual test tones, this is confirmed. When you're doing the stupid manual test tones, the master volume can make a difference.
Depending on your receiver model, it can, but it shouldn't.
It shouldn't, but it can. It definitely can. So turn the master volume all the way up to 0 dB. Physically connect one subwoofer, play the test tone out of there, look at your SPL meter, the SPL meter, C-weighted, slow response.
And then adjust the volume knob on your
subwoofer
until you leave the knob or the calibration control on the receiver at 0.
That's right. Yeah, you're not moving the master volume from here. You're not moving the trim level in the receiver from here.
Nothing.
You are turning the volume dial on the subwoofer itself, the first subwoofer. Doesn't matter which one it is.
Doesn't matter.
You're starting with 1, and you're going to turn that until your SPL meter reads 72 decibels.
That's right. Then you're going to unplug that first subwoofer and do the same thing with the second subwoofer.
That's
so your second subwoofer gets calibrated to 72.
Okay? That's right. Then you plug them both in and confirm that with both of them playing the test tones at the same time, which is easy to do if you only have one subwoofer output, like a lot of AV receivers do, or if you have two, you make sure that both of them are playing at the same time, and now your SPL meter should read 75 dB with the two of them combined. Now, if you're off by 1 or 2 dB, no big deal. No big deal if you're off by 1 or 2 dB. You just want to be somewhere around 75 dB with both of them playing, but individually they should both read the same, which should be about 72 dB individually.
That's right. Yeah. So at this point, because your subwoofers are set up optimally,
yes,
and you've level matched them so that they're both playing the same volume, now they're both plugged in at the same time, you run YPOW.
That's right.
By the directions, whatever they tell you to do that. There's certain things you can do to make sure you don't get erroneous readings. You don't want to put your microphone within 12 inches of any sort of structure. So that includes you. That includes the headrest. No matter, I know it tells you put it where your head is. Your head's right on the headrest. You put it 12 inches away from the headrest at least. Maybe a little bit elevated or however it goes. Doesn't matter. Do not put it right against. Don't put it right on. Don't put it there. Okay, just move it forward. I use a tripod. My camera tripod. That's what I use, and I just move the tripod around.
Yeah,
you know, because the legs are adjustable. Really, really super easy. Do your measurements, and your pretty much done. I mean, there's really nothing else to do at that point.
Exactly, which is why we talk so much about the positioning, because it makes it so much easier.
Now, if you're positioning in like your case, you're done, dude. You were like
That's
literally that is 5 minutes of
It was
your
like
day.
3 steps, man.
The wipeout will take the longest out of any of this, right? It should
Yeah.
take you very little time to do the rest of it. So that is what you're going to do. Now, if your speakers, if you cannot place them optimally, that's when you have to start worrying about distances and you worry about phase. Now, when we talk about phase, when we talk about distance, we're kind of talking about the same thing.
We're talking about the same thing. We're talking about a relative delay from one subwoofer output versus the other. So imagine the signal is coming along. They're both getting fed the same signal. All right, they're both getting the exact same signal. And it's saying, all right, now your drivers should both move out, and now they should both move in, and now they should both move out, and now they should both move in. But if you haven't placed your subwoofers optimally, if they're both on the front of the room, or they're in the 2 front corners, or whatever, something like that, or you just have a very irregularly shaped room, that could also be the case.
Yes.
Which is probably the more common scenario.
Yes.
So if that's your situation, the signal is saying both of you move out at the same time, both of you move in at the same time, and the subwoofers do exactly that. But the problem is, because of the shape of the room, or because they're both at the front of the room, or what have you, the actual wave pattern that's generated is very suboptimal. It is not uniform from seat to seat, which is what we're going for. We're going for uniformity. So if that's the case, what you can do is you start to adjust the phase if you have a variable phase knob on one of the subwoofers, or if you don't, you can use the distance setting in your AV receiver. And now, instead of them both moving in and out in perfect synchronization, they're slightly out of sync. But the idea is that by being slightly out of sync, the waveform that they generate in the room, because the room is reflecting all these sound waves around and bouncing everywhere and going all over the place, by having the 2 sources of sound slightly out of sync, you can eventually stumble upon, essentially, because the only way to really do it is trial and error.
Yeah.
You stumble upon a perfect asynchronous movement of those 2 drivers to create a more uniform wave pattern in your room. And really, it is trial and error. It's trial and error. If you can measure it, that's easier. You could attempt to do it by ear, but man, oh man, would that be difficult. Now, so really, at this point, you need to measure.
Let's say you have all your subs placed optimally. You have 4 subs, and they're in all 4 corners. You could go through, and one of our listeners has done this, and phase matched every single sub. Phase matched all 4 subs. So they were, even though they're not going in and out at the exact same time, the sound wave is hitting the microphone at the exact same moment because of the slightly different distances.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is, it will not sound as good as if you just left it alone.
It'll sound worse. Yeah.
He said it sounded way worse and much less uniform by trying to phase match all of his subs in the room.
When the subs were optimally positioned.
When they're optimally placed. So you want to know what your steps are. Step 1, level match your subs. Step 2, run wipeout. Step 3, there's really no step 3. Okay? Because you already placed the subs. It's watch a movie, enjoy. That's pretty much it. So
yeah, because
you're done.
That last part you were talking about, the linearity, that's what your automatic EQ is doing for you.
Exactly.
Because it's saying, look, if we manage to create uniform response from seat to seat, now Wipeout or Odyssey or Dirac or what have you can come in there and equalize the response, because the response is the same from seat to seat. So if there's humps and bumps in the response, that's okay, because you have the same humps and bumps in every seat. Now EQ can come in and fill in some of those humps and knock down some of those bumps, and you get nice linear response. But if it's different from seat to seat, how the heck are you supposed to do that? The EQ can't do anything if it's different from seat to seat, because if it fixes one seat, it's going to make the seat next to it worse. So that's why we have to get the uniformity.
That's what we're going for. We're going for uniformity of bass when we have multiple subs. Uniformity. That means the peaks are all at the same place and the dips are all at the same place. That means that your EQ can go in and fix what it can, and it won't mess up anything else. That's why we have people who will say things like, I have a sub and I ran whatever, 2 subs and they're not placed optimally, and it sounds, and Odyssey makes it sound worse.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely believe it.
I
believe it. It can happen. All right, let's move on. Jonathan, Jonathan found an article that borrowed some ideas from the forums to go, quote, beyond 7.1.4, unquote, in a home Atmos setup. In this case, to a 7.1.6 setup by using 2 additional Dolby Pro Logic receivers to derive top-middle outputs from the top front and top rear outputs of the primary Dolby Atmos receiver. This is a concept that was mentioned to us a long time ago by Ray Coronado when we had this discussion about how stupid I thought this was. But yes, it is possible. Okay, so if you want to know what the process is, we will give you the link. But the idea is this. Okay, instead of feeding speakers your top front and your top rear on each side. So you'll say top front right and top rear right. Instead of feeding those to speakers, you feed that to a second receiver, and you say it's your right front input and your left front input, and then you have it derive a center channel.
Yeah, using Dolby Pro Logic.
Using Dolby Pro Logic, and then it can then it takes that information and puts it up, and you use that to power the speakers.
That's right.
So that's the idea. So you need technically 3 receivers to make this work.
3 receivers. That's correct. You have your primary one, which is your 7.1.4 Atmos receiver, which will have pre-outs. They all do. And yeah, you're feeding the left top front, left rear top rear to 1 Dolby Pro Logic receiver. And it is now playing the top front and the top rear left signals, but it is deriving a sort of top middle left speaker using Dolby Pro Logic, and then you need a 3rd receiver doing the same thing on the right hand side.
I guess technically you could use if there are 5.1 receivers, you can put 2 speakers on the ground right underneath them, right? And they could derive the back channels, and those would be your floor channels. I mean, theoretically. You could do it. I mean, it would be stupid, but you could do it.
Well, I was going to say, do we have any thoughts? Jonathan asked, why stop there? I say get yourself a 4th receiver that does the old DTS Neo X, and you use the, the front left, front right, center, surround left, and surround right pre-outs. So the 5 main channels. You send those preamp outputs from the primary, the original 7.1.4 receiver, all right? You feed those into the 7.1 analog inputs of this now 4th DTS Neo X receiver, all right? So it's getting a 5.0 channel analog signal. And you apply DTS Neo X processing to that to create front wide speakers, right? So now you can make your system 9.2.6 with 4 receivers. See?
So you get you're just deriving wides from.
You're just deriving wides. That's all. Okay. But you'd need those 5 speakers to do it.
Yes.
So there you go. Now you have 9.2.6 if you want to have.
You can still get 2 more floors. You could get 4 floor channels.
And then I think in order to do your room correction, you'd probably want to use external processing, so you can get yourself 2 of those $1,000 a piece mini DSP Dirac boxes that can do 8 speakers each. Because we're up to 15 speakers now, plus a subwoofer channel, so that's perfect. 2 of those gives you 16 inputs to work with Dirac equalization, because I don't think you'd want to try and synchronize the room correction of 4 receivers. No. That seems like a challenge to me.
That might be it, yes.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe it could be done, but I think the easier way. So I don't know. I mean, this is still less expensive than buying a Trinnov Altitude 32.
That's true. There is the upside. Downside is that it's extremely.
There you go. Why not?
It's just dumb. It's hilarious. I mean, I'm sure there's people doing it right now. You know, you could do it. You've probably got enough receivers lying around.
No, I only have. Oh wait, no, I do have that Panasonic. So yeah, I have 4 receivers around.
You could do it.
There you go. Oh no, I couldn't, because one of my none of my DTS Neo X receivers have 7.1 analog inputs. That's the missing piece.
Well, you could at least do the Atmos channels. I mean,
I could feed them the Zone 2 HDMI output, but then I get into the whole channels overlapping each other nonsense. So it's best to keep the outputs analog. There you go.
All right.
There you go, Jonathan. That's what I think of that. Why stop there?
And I think it's just dumb. All right. Justin. This is Justin, not Bieber, on Twitter. He sends us a little message. He's using a Marantz SR6010 plus an external amp to run a 5.2.4 setup.
Right.
Since the SR6010 has 7 amps built in, and he has at least 4 channels of external amplification. I don't know how he has at least 4. You should know as many.
Well,
he has.
He didn't say to me how many he has,
Right.
but it seems as though he has at least 4.
And he's not currently using the surround back speakers. Is there a way to power Zone 2 using the assignable surround back Zone 2 binding posts? I kind of looked at this, and it didn't really seem like it.
No, and I can see the thinking, because he's like, look, I can...
Right?
Yeah, he's like, I can use 5 of the internal amps to drive the 5 part in my 5.2.4 setup. I can use the 4 channels of external amplification I have to drive the 4 overhead speakers. That leaves me 2 unused internal amps in the 6010. And one of the things you can do in some ways that you could assign the amps is to have Zone 2 powered by the surround back binding posts, right? But unfortunately, there is this amp assign thing that you must do. It's one of the first things you must do in the manual setup is amp assign. And in order to have any sort of 5.2.4 or 7.2.2 or 9.2 setup, you must tell it that you have a 9.1 speaker setup, that you assign the amps to a 9.1 scenario. In order to use the surround back binding post to power Zone 2, in that initial amp assign, you must set it to 5.1 plus Zone 2. And there's no way to do both simultaneously.
No. So the only way to really do this is to save your settings.
Save your settings
online, because you can usually access.
You can do that. Yeah, you take your IP address for your SR6010, plug that into any web browser, and it will bring you to the web setup.
Yes.
And there you can save all of your settings. It'll just be a file saved onto your computer, and you can load that file later to return all those settings to you. Now, that's a great idea to do that regardless of what you're doing, just as a backup. Just so after you've run Odyssey and you've gone through all the rigmarole of all your setup things, save it, because then if the power goes out and you have to do a hard reset or whatever ever happens, you've got all your settings saved. Hooray. But the problem is it takes about 10 minutes to save and about 10 minutes to load, so it's not exactly a snappy, zippy process to switch between the two.
So what you could do, theoretically, if you really, 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 really wanted to do this, you save your settings, and then you recalibrate it for the 5.1
plus Zone 2.
Then you calibrate that, you save that setting separately, and then whenever you want to do one, you load it up, and then you want to do the other one, you load it up. It's going to be like a 10-minute switch time every single time. But now it is possible.
Yeah, that way. And there was a receiver model that allowed you to do what Justin would like to do, and that was the Denon AVR X7200 WA. That one had a completely free amp assign where you could say use 5, because it had 9 amps built in, but you could say use 5 of them for my main zone, use 2 of them for Zone 2, use the other 2 for Zone 3. Like, you could do that in the 7200 WA, which is cool, but it's also like a very expensive receiver. So honestly, the way to do it, because with this SR6010, what he can do is say, all right, I've chosen 9.1 as my amp assign. I can't use the surround back / Zone 2 binding posts to actually power Zone 2 with that configuration. But what I can do is use 2 of my external channels of amplification and the Zone 2 pre-outs on the SR6010, because those are still active. The pre-outs are still active. So I know the idea was, try to use your external amps to power more of the things in your theater, but you can still sort of do what you want to do. You just have to use 2 of the external amps and the Zone 2 pre-outs instead.
And frankly, that Marantz should be able to power all those Atmos speakers just fine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. So, okay, McMansion Chris. Chris wonders about the benefits of a black projection screen, specifically whether there are any benefits compared to regular white or gray screens. He's eyeing the upcoming Epson 5040 UB and wants to get the best possible image. His theater doesn't have much ambient light, but there's a little during the day, and the walls are light gray, and the carpet and the ceiling are both white. So there is some reflected light from on the screen itself. So is a black screen worth considering?
I sure wouldn't.
The answer is an emphatic no for me. It really.
I sure
I
would.
went and looked at this because I hadn't heard of a black screen because it's I just hadn't come across it.
Oh,
But
okay.
the screen innovations people are super duper excited about it. Their slate screen is what they were talking about when I went through it, and it's fantastic. It is glorious. I love it. If you're going to
Mm,
be sitting there in a completely lit room with a
right.
bunch of ambient light all around you, it rejects all that ambient light and gives you a really nice looking image. In your situation, not so much. It's not gonna. There's not. You think there's ambient light in your room? There's really not. I mean, there's a little
Well,
bit,
there's
but
a little bit.
there's
Yeah.
not. There's not nearly enough to justify getting a special screen just for it,
Yeah,
in my
Seymour
opinion.
Seymour AV offers a quote unquote black screen as well. And the way these work is essentially they have louvers. They have a
Hmm.
filter over it that is basically louvers that allows light to enter and reflect off the screen from a given direction, which should be the projector head on, and then basically rejects the light or reflects any light coming in from other angles back to where it came from so that it doesn't impede on your viewing. These screens cause visible artifacts. There's no way around it.
Yeah,
You know, unless you have your head in a vice and you have everything perfectly aligned,
I
you
can't
get some
imagine there's not
artifacts
hot
looking at these
spotting stuff
screens.
going on with these things.
There is hot spotting. There are sparklies. There's
Yeah,
off angle
in a dark
issues
room,
with viewing it.
you're gonna run into so many. I think so many problems. Way more
That
than
are
the
yeah, I mean, yeah,
that
so not worth it.
I just can't see what problem it's solving. The problem is that there's a little bit of light coming off your ceiling and your floor because it's white or whatever. Yeah, that's not nearly enough to justify all the hassle. You want this in a well-lit room because you won't see the rest of that stuff because of all the light that's around. But
Yeah, no, I
it'll
mean,
look much
if
better
you're
than
doing a projection setup in a sunlit room, like a full blown day lit
or
room,
a on a showroom floor or something like
yeah,
that. I've seen these types of screens at it wasn't the black screen, but I've seen these types of screens at like CES and CEDIA, and they'll
yep,
put this screen half of it up right next to a white screen in
yeah,
the middle of this thing, and you're like, holy crap, that looks great compared to the
sure,
white screen because the white
that's
screen's
right.
all washed out and everything.
So yeah, like so
Oh,
washed out that it's unwatchable.
it
Like
is completely, yeah.
you'd never choose to watch it. And this at least gives you some semblance of contrast and black levels to where
Yeah.
you go, oh, that is an image I could tolerate watching. But the problem is you're saying most of the time you're going to be watching your movies at night. You know, if you're playing games during the day, you're going to have a light cannon. That 5040 UB is a light cannon. Okay, your black levels are not going to be as inky black as they can be in the dead of night when all the lights are off. Okay, but it's still going to be playable. It's still going to be plenty playable
Yeah.
because you're dealing in a low ambient light to almost no ambient light situation. You're not dealing with sunlit. So these black screens have their place. I'm not saying they have no place, but in your situation, absolutely not. Get yourself a white screen.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. He's slowly getting ready to jump into Atmos. He already has 4 M&K 550. It's SURR. So I'm guessing that
Yes.
means surround 550 bookshelves. He's going to mount as top fronts and top rears.
All
You got
right.
2 receivers. You can derive yourself as top center. You got 2
Don't
extra receivers
bother.
just lying around.
Please don't bother.
Don't ask us how to calibrate it because we ain't going to help you there. You're on your own.
External direct
Big
boxes, man.
matching.
Extra $2,000.
He's read that they have very wide dispersion, so the plan is to mount them pointing straight down. However, he's not sure whether to orient them based on the length or the width of the room. Meaning, when he's sitting in the seats and looking up the speaker, should he see the top or the bottom or the sides of the speaker?
So these are sort of that bipole design. These have the, you know, the sort of the wedge shape, and some of the drivers, like if they were mounted normally, like vertically on a side wall, then some of the drivers are facing towards the back of the room, and some of the drivers are facing towards the front of the room. But he's going to have them on the ceiling. Right? I would suggest having them still, so they're up on the ceiling, and I would suggest that you use those angles to still have the drivers firing a little bit towards the front of the room and a little bit towards the back of the room, meaning you will be looking at the side of the speaker, not the top or the bottom of the speaker. To me, that makes more sense because what you're trying to do, because he's going to have top fronts and top rears, right? You want to make the dispersion from front to back very wide so that you're covering your whole seating area. I'm less worried about the dispersion from left to right being as wide as possible.
I could get behind that.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. I
And in
didn't
all
realize
honesty, it doesn't really matter that much.
it doesn't matter that much, yeah.
But that's
But
the way I would come at it.
fine.
You're more likely to be concerned about, especially if you have 2 rows of seats or something like that. Then you really want to make sure that your dispersion is as wide front to back as you can get it.
Yeah.
That matters more.
So suppose he decides to try aiming the speaker slightly at the seats rather than pointing them straight down. Will he need to adjust the speaker angle, then run Odyssey, then play some sound to see how he likes it for every angle he decides to try? Is running Odyssey totally unnecessary for every change? And what is he actually supposed to listen for to decide which angle sounds best? What audio is best to use for this? Test tones, movies with lots of overhead sound, etc., etc. I thought Odyssey didn't do anything with these speakers.
Oh, it does.
It just does level matching, though, right? Isn't that it?
No, it EQs them.
I thought it didn't EQ them.
Oh yeah, it won't EQ them if they are up-firing speakers, because they're...
Oh, that's right. That's the ones.
Yeah,
okay.
It's Dolby's whole pre-programmed curve that's in there.
Right.
But for actual speakers on the ceiling, it totally EQs them.
Yeah.
Pink noise.
Yeah.
Pink noise. It's the same as finding the best toe-in for your front left to right speakers, right? It's the same process. It just happens to be on the ceiling now.
I honestly wouldn't bother, dude. These speakers are really meant to be very, very. I don't understand why. First of all, they look really goofy pointed. Number one. Number two, I don't know why you would point a speaker that is meant to have such a wide. I mean, a very wide dispersion. It's like it's silly, really, honestly. I mean, I'm not saying you're silly. I'm saying that the speaker itself is meant to have this hugely wide dispersion. You're like, I better point to that myself, so it's going to be wide. It's fine. I'm almost worried it's going to be too wide. To be honest with you.
Okay.
I'm almost worried it's going to be too wide.
Diffuse?
So yeah, exactly. I think it might need a little bit more pinpoint up there, which means if anything, I wouldn't want them pointed towards you. I'd want them pointed straight down the way that you're sort of thinking about it. I think that's honestly would be my concern about using. I am more worried about the fact that you're using a surround speaker up there rather than a downward firing in ceiling speaker the way that Dolby really wants you to. I don't think it's necessarily a deal breaker or anything.
No, I don't think it's a deal breaker at
all. But I
all.
certainly don't think you need to point them at you in any way, shape, or form.
No, I would agree with that. However, some people who aren't Chris might be using speakers on their ceiling that are more directional.
Yes.
In which case, it's not a terrible idea if you're willing to put in the time, because like I say, you're essentially doing the same thing as you would for finding the toe-in of your front left and right speakers. It's basically the same process that we're talking about here. So pink noise is your friend. You want that pink noise to sound as this is without any EQ or anything beforehand. And believe me, it's not going to be perfect, but you will, if you're listening critically, be able to notice that, oh yeah, when a more directional speaker is aimed in a given direction, you'll say the pink noise sounds more uniform, sounds more similar from speaker to speaker to speaker when I get this certain angle going on it, and that's the angle you choose. Then you run your EQ after you've done that. So it's not quite as labor intensive as he was suggesting it could be, but it's still a lot of trial and error. There's not much you can do about it.
Yeah. Anthony has been a listener for a few years, and we've inspired him over the last year to make some pretty major upgrades to his theater. Good. That's good, I guess. We'll see. He went from a 65-inch Panasonic plasma to a Epson 5030 UV with a 106-inch screen. He also upgraded to a Marantz SR5010 receiver. Now that the credit cards have recovered from all of that, it's time for more upgrading. He has about $1,500 to spend.
All right.
He's happy with his 15-year-old Cambridge Soundworks speakers, except that he finds their lack of bass disturbing, even with their built-in 10-inch subwoofers. Put quotes around the subwoofers. All right, so he wants to add a pair of subs to his system. His theater is only about 1770 cubic feet, but it is not enclosed at the back, so the total open space is really about 4,000 cubic feet.
There you go. So there is an opening there. He's got a curtain over the opening, but a curtain doesn't really prevent the air from moving in and out of there.
Oh, it's a cute little curtain.
He has openings going to other places in this house, so therefore about 4,000 cubic feet.
Yeah, that's a lot of feet. Okay. Cubic or not. A pair of SVS PB2000s at $14.99 plus free shipping are the right price for his budget, but would they be enough for his room? It's gonna. You're right. I think you're right at the upper edge of what it can do, maybe. But I think.
But how many people are genuinely worried about reference volumes? So
yeah, I think this guy might be. But okay. You're going from whatever's built into your speakers, those 10-inch subwoofers, to this. You're gonna think it's amazing.
Oh yeah.
Now
it'll be a big upgrade.
technically, could you get something a little bit bigger and make sure you hit reference volume?
Mm-hmm.
You could. These might not. Yeah, I think these will get you 87.5% of the way there. I just made that number up. That's what I think.
Yes.
I think it might get you even closer than that. But it's going to be tight. It's going to be a little tight. I think if you call SVS and tell them what your cubic feet is, they're going to probably try to sell you something a little bit bigger. But
Possibly.
I don't think that you will be disappointed if you bring home 2 PB2000s.
Yeah. And of course, the great news that we do mention when it comes to SVS subwoofers, turn them up as loud as they can possibly go. Their volume dials all the way up to the maximum, and they'll be fine. They will not bottom out. They won't destroy themselves.
I don't know why in this room he's not looking at cylinders, to be honest with you. He doesn't have a ton of floor space.
Yeah, you could. It could be the PC 2000s instead. That would.
Same
price, though. So.
I would be looking at those PC 2000s.
So, I mean, he did consider something else, because we've talked about how if you want crazy high output for very decent prices, HSU Research, and he considered their VTF 15H Mark IIs, and you can get them as duals at a slight discount. But then he's looking at basically $2,000 for the pair of those. I wanted to mention there is an alternative. It's the same driver, it's the same amp, it's just a slightly smaller box, which are the VTF 3 Mark Vs, and you can get those in duals as well. Now, there, after the shipping, you're still going to be over $1,500, but not by as much. It's pretty darn close. So to me, that's, because they're $1,550 plus $178 in shipping. So you're definitely more expensive than the 2 PB2000s or PC 2000s.
Yeah.
But we're talking $200 more for subs that are basically within 1 decibel of the output of the Ultra Series models from SVS at this price. So if
you've got room for those boxes, and you've got
they are huge. They are huge.
If you build the box, build the cardboard box, make sure it fits. But if you've got room for the boxes, this will get you the output that you need.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it does look like maybe at the back of his room, maybe.
I know there looks like. I mean, how many of those stuffed animals does he actually need? Can we get rid of one of those? Yeah, and then what's that? I can't even see what that is. It must be a side room.
There's honestly not a massive amount of room to work with in here. So
no, there's not. In front of his room, though, it looks like you could probably fit
you can definitely get one
cylinder up in one of those corners,
or even one of these VTF3s. One of these VTF3s, you could fit one of them at the front if you can find somewhere to put it at the back. You could use one
as a center channel stand to start with. You could do that, and then you put the other one, and you put those pictures and that stuffed animal on it, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
You're not watching the YouTube video. I'm sorry. It's a bear. I think it looks like it's some sort of bear. It's got a pink bow, not bow, scarf. Whatever, doesn't matter. Not important as far as room treatments are concerned. Now, should he worry about the subs at all right now, or should room treatments come first? His total space has hardwood floors with a rug in the theater area, sliding glass door behind the blackout curtain, hallways to either areas of the house. The house is rented, so nothing permanent can be done. But should acoustic treatments be the current priority?
Let's look at those pictures again.
Let's look at them again. I want to say that you are going to, you've got some hard edges here, Haas. You would find a lot of benefit from room treatments, but you will probably want to get the subs first. I think.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna go for the subs first because you've got it's gonna make such a massive, dramatic difference in your life. It's gonna be. You're gonna be like. If we tell you get the room treatments, you're gonna go, yeah, it sounds a lot better now. And then afterwards, you buy the sub, you go, holy crap, why did I do this first?
Yeah. Like this is a reflective room, but it's not the most reflective room I've ever seen. He's got a rug. Like we say, curtains aren't going to do a whole lot, but at least it's not a completely bare wall. He's got some furniture that's got at least a little bit of foaminess to it. So this isn't the most reflective room I've ever seen. Yeah, I gotta agree. The difference in adding 2 subs of this type of capability, the change will be so dramatic that that's your biggest bang for buck right there.
Yeah. All right. Concerning the 10-inch subs, in quotes, in his towers, he has them connected to each other in series, which is what the manual says to do. Would it be better to connect them to the receiver separately so they could be adjusted individually?
So it's a 50-10 right? His receivers are 5010, so it doesn't have sub EQ HD, so it isn't really adjusting them individually. It's, you know, it has two separate subwoofer outputs, but it's just one mono signal, one distance setting for both.
Yeah, but are these things really getting? I mean, where are they crossing over into the top speaker?
Yeah, I mean that's all predetermined. I believe I'm recalling from the specs because he sent in some. I think it was 350 hertz or somewhere in that range.
So I mean, we just really want to run these things full range. You know, not full range, but cross them over into the subs into the subs you're about to get. So
basically, stop thinking of the drivers in your towers as subwoofers.
Just think of them as part of the speaker.
I got some woofers. They happen to have their own amplifier power behind them, just like a Definitive Technology or a Golden Ear Triton tower. But it's just a speaker. It happens to have a powered woofer, but you're still going to cross it over to your pair of subwoofers. You're just going to consider it as a speaker that has the capability of playing lower than some other speakers out there, but because both of your front speakers are up at the front of your room, you don't want to use them as subwoofers. You just want to use them as normal speakers that have some decent bass output capability. That's good. You got a lot of room to fill all the way up to 500 hertz. We are concerned about that. So this is very appropriate, but you're still going to cross them at 60, 70, 80 hertz, somewhere in that range, which is totally fine. It's not like you're wasting your powered 10-inch drivers by doing that. You're totally still using them. They're doing
stuff. They'll be going in and out.
They're playing well up to 800 hertz with that sort of a crossover. So they are absolutely still working for you. And that's
the answer to the next question, which is whenever he gets new subs, which you will sooner or later, should he continue using the sub drivers in his towers? And if so, how would that influence the placement of his new subs? Doesn't influence the placement of your subs at all because you're not using these as subwoofers. You're using them as part of the speaker. You are crossing these things over into your subwoofers because you do not, you do not continue to rely on your elderly grandfather to protect you from the bullies when you have a prize, Muay Thai boxer in your corner, which is what you're going to have with these subwoofers. These subwoofers are going to kick so much butt. You wouldn't even come on, don't make them feel bad about themselves. Just let them cross over. Let them do what they do best, and they're going to be fine right there. Because when you cross them over at 80, they're still playing down to like 60. 50 sometimes
40, honestly.
I mean, they're making some noise all the way down there. That's what most people consider to be subwoofers anyways. Anyway, all right. He's also thinking of getting a larger screen sometime down the road. He sits 12 and a half feet, almost 12 and a half feet away from his current or so coming from his 65-inch plasma. So he sits 12 and a half feet away from his screen. His 65-inch plasma, he switched to 106 inches of a screen, so that was a huge upgrade. But after living with it for a year, it's starting to feel a little bit on the small side. So going larger will require an acoustically transparent screen so as not to push the mains too close to the side walls. This decreases his seating distance down to closer to 10 and a half feet. At that distance, would a 220 or 125-inch screen be too big? Now, it's funny that this question came in because I was thinking about this the other day about my screen, which if you're watching the YouTube video, you can see that there's whiteness behind me, which is why I suddenly don't look terrible anymore. But that's okay. You don't have to show me right now.
That's okay. People have seen the image.
So basically, when I got this screen, I got a 92-inch. I had an 80-inch before, but it was pushed away from the wall because it had to be because I had some stuff on the floor behind it. That I needed to, so it was pushed forward a little bit. So basically, I went from an 80-inch that was pushed forward to a 92-inch that was against the wall. The actual viewing distance from my perspective didn't really change that much because of the angles. It still looks about the same size. It is quite a bit bigger. I mean, it's a foot bigger, but diagonally. But it's not that much bigger objectively or subjectively because of the way I'm seeing it. So literally, what you could do is just take the current screen you have and pull it forward, rather than getting if you get a 120-inch, you could actually go with the same size screen you have right now and just move it forward onto a acoustically transparent, a false wall.
A false wall or hang it, suspend it from the ceiling.
That's honestly, I would take the screen you have right now, move it forward 18 inches or 12 inches, and it's going to be bigger.
Right now, so being 12 and a half feet away from a 106-inch diagonal screen, he's got a 34-degree field of view. And I mean, that's a very nice field of view, especially for like HD TV content or playing video games or something like that. But I can see if you're watching CinemaScope movies, you got the black bars on the top and bottom, you're like, I could go bigger than this. And I certainly could personally.
Yeah.
I like maybe a 45-degree field of view. We've certainly heard from lots of listeners who like even larger than that. We've had plenty of people talking about, 54, 55-degree field of view. But I like about a 45-degree field of view. Now, if he did exactly what he proposes, just straight up went to 10.5 feet viewing distance because he puts in a false wall, and went to a 120-inch diagonal screen. So he went to the larger screen and he brought it closer. That would give you the 45-degree field of view. So I can't say that that's really a bad idea, because it's exactly the plan he has in mind, and it gives you a 45-degree field of view, which is pretty darn nice. So I wouldn't say that's too big. I'd say that's very reasonable. And if you decide that you want, and you could test this out. You could test this just by using the projector you have, zooming it until it's the size that you want on the wall on the screen. So it'll be overshooting your physical screen that you have right now. But
right.
This is just a test. You get it to the size that you want, figure out what that distance to diagonal size ratio is. And that will tell you, maybe you like bigger than 45 degrees, or maybe you think 45 degrees is too large. You prefer 40 or 42 or something like that, right? All of these things, there's no right or wrong.
This is just taking that screen you have off the wall,
that screen and moving it closer,
moving it forward. That's going to cost you like a couple of little things to hang it from a ceiling and some chain. I mean, or whatever.
Or he's saying it's a rental. Maybe he doesn't want to do anything in the ceiling, but you could build stands.
Build stand for
to attach the frame of the screen.
2x4.
Yeah. So just moving the screen you have closer could be satisfactory. Absolutely.
That's totally what I would do.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's worth a try.
Anyways, there are acoustically transparent screens that Seymour AV we always talk about. I know Elite screens make some.
So Elite screens, because the last question you had was affordable acoustically transparent screens. Maybe ones that are drop down, even like motorized drop down.
Motorized drop down is not affordable. Let's just start with that. Generally speaking, and not tensioned. It's not if it's.
That's right. Yeah, and you want it. You definitely want, in my opinion, if you're going to have a roll down screen that's acoustically transparent, in my opinion, you want it tensioned. For sure, because you want the spacing of the little holes in the screen, because there are little holes in the screen. That's how the sound gets through. You want them uniform. You don't want them bunching up in some places. You don't want waves in your screen for the visual aspect. So to me, you want a tension screen. So Elite Screens does have, if you're going to go with them, go with their Acoustic Pro. They're now calling it UHD. They used to call it Acoustic Pro 4K. They've now just changed the name to Acoustic Pro UHD so that they're technically correct. You'll want to go with that fabric, because their other fabric, their Acoustic Pro 1080 fabric, is not great, especially if you're only 10 feet away. Pretty much all the reviews are like, you need to be about 17 to 20 feet away from this before you stop seeing the weave, because it is a coarse weave in that Acoustic Pro 1080. Yeah, no kidding. So you'll want their Acoustic Pro UHD fabric if you do it. It has a tint to it. It's not perfectly color neutral. However, you can recalibrate your projector to sort of compensate for that. So it's not the end of the world. So the advantage of the Elite screens is they're far less expensive than almost anyone else out there. They have their Saker tab tensioned motorized roll down screen that you can get with the Acoustic Pro UHD fabric. That's your most affordable choice, in my opinion. And it's not too bad. The Seymour AV screens are great, but they are more expensive. There's one other option. They're actually a Canadian company. They're based in Toronto. I call them Illunavision. I know that Tom doesn't like that pronunciation. Elune Vision. So Illunavision. I say Illunavision, but
there's no A.
But there's an E.
You don't say Aluna, you say Iluna. So it's got
Illunavision.
It's Ilune. So
Ilune. I don't know. Anyway, ELUNE Vision, all one word. But yeah, they have fairly affordable, acoustically transparent, motorized roll down if you want them screens. So again, we'll have the links for all of these at avrant.com. But those would be the options I would check out, because everybody else is more expensive than that. So
yeah, it gets pricey real fast.
Yeah.
You know what's cheaper than all that?
Moving the screen you have already forward. Yeah, that's true. Can't disagree.
Nothing wrong with that. Michael, since Rob's video tutorial, Michael's HTPC is working well with his Blu-ray rips in Plex, but now he's having a Netflix issue. Michael, once again, is visually impaired, so he's accessing Netflix through a web browser since the Windows 10 Netflix app is only about 25% accessible with a screen reader, which sucks.
Yeah, it does. It's very unfortunate.
The problem is that when using Firefox, he has crashing issues, and with Chrome and Edge, he can't seem to get surround sound audio output. The front of the receiver says multi-channel in, but it's only stereo, not surround. If he uses the app, the receiver says Dolby Digital. Is true surround not supported by Netflix in the web browser? Michael, you have opened my eyes because I read up on this, and holy crap, it totally is not.
Yeah, I couldn't get it to work on my own setup. Now, I could get the app, the Windows Netflix app that you can get in the Windows Store for Windows 10. Downloaded that, which is like a tiny, tiny little download. Downloaded that, fired that up. Dolby Digital Plus 5.1 bitstream audio coming out of my PC into my AV receiver. Everything lights up. It's all fine. And that's what he says, right? He gets Dolby Digital output when he uses the app. The problem for him is that navigating the app is a pain because his screen reader doesn't do a very good job of telling him the controls that are on the screen. So unfortunately, yeah, anytime I used any browser, and actually, there's a little article I'll link to, but over at Gizmodo, they were talking about how Netflix is handled on different browsers. And actually, normally Firefox and Chrome are better at just about everything. But in this particular case, they're limited to 720p. Now,
that's ridiculous. And an Internet Explorer can give you 1080. I mean, come on.
Yeah, Edge, Safari.
That is the only.
They can give you 1080. Okay. I mean, that's the way it is right now. Things will probably change. But regardless, yeah, it doesn't seem to matter what browser you use. You're not going to get Dolby Digital out of it. You'll get a signal that is the signal that gets sent out of the PC is based on the sound configuration. So if you followed my sound guide configuration, which was to always set Windows sound to 7.1, regardless of what you're doing, because that way, no matter what the signal is, it'll come out. So that's why it goes to the multi-channel in mode, because it's getting a signal that says, oh, there's 7.1 channels of audio coming here, but there's actually only 2. There's actually only stereo coming out of that Netflix feed on the web browser. So yeah, we're all in the same boat on this, Michael, unfortunately. Obviously, for most people, I just say use the app, because the app does work. You do get Dolby Digital Plus 5.1 audio bitstream coming out of the thing. It does function. It's just for him in his situation, I completely understand the frustration.
Yeah. So we don't really have an answer.
Unfortunately,
you were right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
you're right. It doesn't. You're not doing anything wrong.
No.
How about that?
No. So I don't know if one of the streaming boxes is in any way more accessible for you to use. But that
I mean, I'm thinking of like the Chromecast type of stuff where you can.
I'm particularly thinking of an Apple TV, because Apple does a fairly good job of being accessible with voice commands and things like that. And the Netflix app on an Apple TV would do this just fine. So I'm kind of thinking that might ultimately be. I mean, it's money. That's the problem, right? You know, to do it all on your PC, it's free. So yeah.
Sorry. Ryan. Sorry. All right, Ryan. Ryan is thinking about buying a new TV. He has no 4K gear and likely won't for several years. And so a good 1080p model is fine. The TV will be located in a room with little to no light control, and this budget is about $1,000. He's never owned a Vizio, but he's not a fan, as he heard their long-term reliability isn't great. So what should he buy? I had heard that same thing about Vizio.
Oh, sure, because early on it was the case.
I remember one of the very first, I think maybe only Vizio TV I reviewed for Audioholics. It came, and the guy who dropped it off and went, I pick these TVs up all the time.
Yep.
That's what he said when he dropped them off. He goes, I pick them up. I pick up 3 or 4 a week. Take them, send them back. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. So I have not heard that since.
Right. To me, this is a little bit like the plasma TVs burn in.
Yeah.
Right. But it's a unfortunate thing that's stuck with them.
This is your money, and this is your thing. So when the 2 models that the 2 manufacturers I recommend, well, there's 3 really. The 2 I generally recommend is Vizio if you want a deal, and Samsung if you're more worried about other things or you just don't want to buy a Vizio. The third would be Sony. Sony makes great TVs. They're just freaking
they're usually more expensive. Yeah.
So Samsung would be the way to go here in my opinion.
And their J6200 series, which it is from 2015. Now, Samsung basically they didn't make any new 1080p models for 2016. They're like, all our new TVs are going to be 4K and up.
Yeah, you got if you're gonna get 1080p, you better buy, dude, like now, like buy it because they're going the way of dodo.
You can get the 65-inch version of the J6200 for under $1,000. At least on Amazon, you can. And it's a nice TV. I'm not going to say it's the greatest TV that's ever been made, but we're talking about a 65-inch TV for under $1,000. That is very good looking. It's a very good looking 1080p TV. So if that's what you want and you're not comfortable with Vizio, I got no problem sending it that way because it's a darn good looking TV. So
yeah. I mean, don't be. I guess just in general though, don't be afraid to buy a 4K TV, even if you're not going to use the 4K-ness of it.
Well,
I
like
mean, you're not going to have a choice very soon.
The current Samsung KU series televisions, because those are the new 2016, but they're 4K. And there you could get the 55-inch for $1,000, but you couldn't go larger in size than that for $1,000. So it depends. I don't know what size you're going for. He didn't specify. But if 55 inches is as large as you want it, the KU series, I think it's the KU 7000 series from Samsung. Really nice looking TVs. I've seen them in the store. They're really nice looking TVs. They happen to be 4K. But, you know, if that's what you're after.
Feed them a 1080p signal, and they'll take it just fine. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. But, you know, same goes for the Vizios. Is the whole Vizio, the new E series that's out there, very affordable, happens to be 4K, still has full array local dimming. You know, so I wouldn't, but you know what? I got no problem with, if Samsung is more comfortable to you, I got no problem with that either. So there you go. There's some options.
There you go. Mike says that Rob mentioned that the various models of short and in-ear monitors, the SE215s have the most bass. So of the various models, the 215s have the most bass. Is this just without any extra EQ or processing, or do they have the most bass in an absolute sense, meaning that even with EQ, they have more bass potential, capitalized, than even the most expensive multi-driver models in the product line? You'll have to answer this one because I have no idea. Sure.
Yeah, so I'm primarily talking about you don't have any EQ or processing. Just in their natural state, they are the most bass heavy out of that whole lineup. They're the ones with an obvious bass boost. The rest of the lineup, not so much. But Shure does a little bit of a tick-tock type of thing in their lineup. So they've got like their 115s, which are, you know, fairly decent for very inexpensive single driver units. The 215s, obvious bass boost. A lot of people like them. The 315s, pretty darn linear for a single driver unit. 425s, a little bit more bass because they have a tweeter and a woofer in there. And they're like, all right, let's pump up the bass a little bit. The 535s, very, very linear. 3 drivers, extremely linear response. So the 425s, which are much more expensive than the 215s, but they have 2 separate drivers. They have a dedicated woofer. They already have a little bit of bass boost to them, thanks to being the 2-driver design. And then they can handle a little bit more power because they got those 2 drivers. So if there were any other model in the Shure lineup I would point you towards, it would be the 425s. The 425s, just playing out of the box, don't sound as bass heavy as the 215s, but if you pump them up with an EQ and a bass boost control or something like that in your player, they can put out the bass. There's no problem there. So I think, but I don't know, man. I don't know. If there's some way to buy it, it's hard. A lot of places don't take returns on in-ear monitors because you are sticking them in your ear.
That's super duper gross, dude.
It is a little bit. So I don't know if you can find a place where you can return them, because man, he seems to like a lot of bass. But there you go.
All right.
That's the best advice I can offer you.
Carl almost spit his triple espresso everywhere when Tom said in episode 500, part 1 or 2, I don't remember which one, that he had seen an Atmos track on a Redbox rental Blu-ray. Which movie was that? He rents from Redbox once a week and has never seen a rental labeled version of any disc with even true HD, much less Atmos. DTS MA and DTS X, sure, but never Dolby. He'd love to be proven wrong here, because right now, if he wants to rent True HD or Atmos, he has to drive 5 miles each way to the one video store in this area that actually offers rental Blu-rays to rent. You know, you're making me question myself. I seem to remember seeing an Atmos one on, I want to say it was John Wick. I want to say that.
Yeah, that's what you mentioned there last week.
I don't know. I mean, like, things I've rented from from Redbox there's just not that many. I've rented what is the spy movie with what's her name? Not McCarthy. Yeah, McCarthy. The Spy. I think it's just called Spy. Anyways, rented that one. I rented John Wick. I've done the Avengers, all the Avengers movies, most of the Marvel movies that have come out. A couple of other ones, but I can't for the life of me remember if I thought for sure that's the one I
Well,
said.
Redbox doesn't always get a rental only version. Sometimes it's just the retail version. So I would imagine if there were some Blu-ray that had an Atmos soundtrack and the only version available was the regular full retail version, and that's what Redbox had in stock, then you'd get the Atmos version.
Could have just got lucky, dude.
Yeah, it might have just been the one movie.
Yeah,
It's possible.
I don't know.
But I don't know. Redbox disappeared from Canada over a year ago, so I have no frame of reference.
I have not picked up a movie from Redbox in quite some time. I haven't had time. I'm going through the Game of Thrones. I'm on season 3 now, so I way too busy waiting for them dragons to get big. All right, Bruce. Sorry, I couldn't help Carl, by the way. Bruce has a 5,000 cubic foot basement theater. Wow. He recently upgraded from 7.2 to 5.2.4 with the purchase of a Denon AVR X4200W and has been enjoying the results. Yay. Now it may be time to upgrade some of his speakers. He's been using a pair of Klipsch Chorus 2 towers and the Klipsch Academy as his mains and center for over 25 years and thinks he might appreciate a change. I think you might too. A friend recommended Golden Ear Tritons 5s, and listening to us has gotten him interested in the Ascendant Sierra 2s with possibly Horizon with RAL for a center channel. Would either of these be an upgrade to his current speakers? If not, what other speakers would be? Those would totally both be an upgrade to your current speakers.
Well, there'll definitely be a difference. Like
I would unquestionably. So here's the picture. If you're looking at the YouTube thing, I mean these are older speakers. I can't see the center channel at all, but
it is on the ground. It's in that TV shelving unit. So that center speaker is very low.
Yes, it's quite low. But the other the Klipsch speakers are boxes. Kind of your traditional like 70s style, 80s style boxes that. Everybody knows, and I'm sure they probably sound really good for the time. I would imagine. I don't know that they sound that much worse for our time, but I would imagine that these are going to, especially the Golden Ears, are going to be a huge difference in sound simply because, well, I mean, these are Klipsch we're talking about. Are those horn loaded? Because I didn't actually look up.
I don't know because not all Klipsch were horn loaded.
No, so I would imagine that you're going to find quite a bit of difference here.
Oh yeah, there'll be difference for sure. Now, I mean, personal taste as to whether they're an upgrade, because sometimes when you're really used to a sound,
you've been listening to the same speakers for 25 years, dude. You're gonna
anything different might
sound bad to you. You need to go out and listen.
Yes,
you've absolutely got to go out and listen at stores. I don't care what you listen to, literally anything. As long as you can sit down in a semi-quiet space and listen to something and just get some ideas of what's out there. Polk speakers, other Klipsches that are out there, electrostats, anything. Just listen to it all and get an idea of what you kind of like, and then we can kind of figure out what you may or may
because there are many choices in this world.
You can't just listen to us, what we talk about, and then decide, oh, I'm going to buy one of the things that we think you'll be happy.
Sure.
But we would rather know for sure that we're giving you really good advice. We won't know that unless you actually put in a little legwork and listen.
And in addition to any of the speakers that you could go out to stores in your local area and listen to, we will always suggest Aperion Audio, SVS, free shipping both ways, full refunds when you send them back. And they are not, like, I know some people are worried, like, oh, they're going to, yell at me for returning their speakers. They are really nice people to deal with.
They don't
get
care.
it. They're confident in what they're like. Try our speakers because we think if you hear them,
you heard the interview with Gary Yakubi, and he's like, all I gotta do is get my speakers in your house. If I get my speakers in your house, you're gonna want to keep them.
So there's no reason to not add that to your audition repertoire, because it will cost you no money if you send them back. So I'm looking at this space. So we have some photos that we're showing on YouTube. He has quite a large space here.
Yes.
I will give you my honest opinion here. Now, as far as the distance from your seats to the speakers themselves, I'm not concerned about using a bookshelf speaker like the Sierra 2,
Mm-hmm.
but you might have to cross them over fairly high in a room this size because it's open to this whole basement. We do consider that 80 to 500 hertz area that is still bass. The speakers are predominantly responsible for playing that area. This is a room where I would say, yeah, you might want to aim for towers in here. I think it would be a certainly not out of place decision to do that. So, if it were me and I were going for the Ascend speakers, I would be aiming for the Horizon as my center and the towers as my front, left, right. But you could bring in the SVS Ultra towers. You could bring in the Aperion Audio Veris Grand towers and give them a listen, do an audition on them for free. I think you'll be pretty pleased with either of those. And then, exactly as Tom said, listen to others in stores as well.
Yeah. He says he has dual subs, a Golden Ear Force Field 5.
And there it is.
Where is it?
Little guy in the front left corner.
I was wondering if that's what it was. I thought that would be some sort of foot warmer or something. And the SVS PB12 Plus 2, which is considerably larger than that
yes. There it is over on the other side.
Now, for aesthetic reasons, he was thinking about moving the SVS sub behind some bookcases that have a void behind them and are open at the top to the rest of the room. The bookcase next to the fridge and the picks, but isn't sure if this is a good idea. Is it a good idea? I really don't think it's a good idea. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, and honestly, where you have it right now is more or less centered.
Yes, I was going to say you have it in a good place right now. Can you get the other one across from it?
Yeah, but, like on the back wall, directly across on the back wall. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that possible? Because that's a small one. So can you put it there? Yes, right there underneath that.
Kind of looks like. Yeah.
Looks like you got some room there. Can you put it there? Running the cable might be a problem, but underneath the carpet should be all right. Yeah, I do not put it behind there. Subs are not made to be put inside of boxes. It's already a box. It needs to be out.
Yeah.
And you're going to have boundary reinforcement from basically 5 sides if you count the floor. And it's going to be bounced off the ceiling too. It's just going to ring and reverberate into all kinds of free. We know that bass goes everywhere. It's omnidirectional and stuff, but you're giving it a lot to bounce off of as it's going up and out of that chute.
You're almost creating a kind of a horn. Kind of a port.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I actually quite like where it's positioned already, the larger SVS subwoofer. So I would leave it there.
So he asked, do we think he has enough bass for his room with his current subs, or should he considering adding another sub or subs? The PB12 Plus 2
I think that's fine.
Should be fine. It's the force field. I didn't look at the force field. What's the specs on that? Because I didn't look it up.
Just look at it.
I mean, it is awfully small. I would think that sub is probably not keeping up to
the
rest.
It is definitely not keeping up with the other sub in terms of sheer output. Now,
if you sell them both and get smaller,
that's true.
You sell them both because you'll definitely get a lot of your money back from the SVS for sure, and you can get something smaller or a cylinder, which will have a smaller footprint at least. And do that if you want.
A cylinder would fit nice where the PB12 Plus 2 is right now. A cylinder standing up in that spot underneath that picture.
And now they have those wooden tops on it. Your wife can put a plant on it. Put one across their decorative columns.
I mean, getting the ultras in here would not be out of place at all, though.
No, yeah, you get the ultras. That would be. But, then again, you're getting into some serious money when you get to the ultras. So this is a lot of room to pressurize.
Yeah.
The 2000s are really...
The 2000s, 5,000 cubic feet. We were hemming and hawing when it was 4,000 cubic feet, so this didn't improve on that.
They're not going to improve on that one at all. So you've got some options here. But, yeah, the big sub you've got, I think you can get a smaller sub. Physically smaller, sure. That will give you a similar output, and you can get a lot of your money back for that SVS if you hold out for it.
Yeah,
on Craigslist or whatever.
But as far as what would be the easiest thing, I would try replacing that Force Field 5. That would be my approach.
That would be it too. Lastly, he asks, he's been considering adding a false wall at the front of the room. What are our thoughts on this? My initial thought was, why? I mean, you've got a beautiful theater.
Maybe to get his center speaker higher, though.
Could
That's what I'm
be.
thinking.
If that's the case, then I'm 100% behind it. If it's
Yeah.
because you just want to clean everything up and make, when you invest in new speakers, your options are usually black and mostly black. Either it's just everything's black, and you've got those black curtains hanging there. Your speaker's going to full on disappear into that room. So if you're just looking to clean stuff up, yeah. But if you're looking to add like an acoustically transparent screen and get everything behind there and that sort of thing, I could get behind that because that center channel is super duper low, dude.
Yeah. So to me, if that's the reason, yeah, then I would be in favor. But that's a pretty big expenditure. You're talking about some construction. It would have to be an acoustically transparent screen. So that's certainly not nothing to get into doing all that as a project. But yeah, it could be worth it.
All right, we're gonna skip forward here to Galen.
Oh, the very last one.
Yes, and then we're going to stop because it's
Okay.
11 o'clock and I am
It
tired.
sure is.
Galen. Galen wants to know exactly how Tom and Rob know so much about AV. Do we do loads of research before each show, or are all? That's awfully hard to say. Or are all the brilliant, helpful, fantastic, fabulous, awesome, amazing, and money-saving answers already bouncing around in our heads, just waiting to be spoken? It's a little bit of both of that, to be honest with you. I say that with all humility. I've been doing this for ever. If you add up all the years I've done the podcast and everything else, I've been doing this for 12, 13 years.
Sure.
AV, is it more than that? How old's my son? So he's 10. I've been doing this for at least 10 years. It started before he was born. Yeah, it's been a long time, dude. So I've been doing this for a really long time. And when you are in an industry all the time, you can't help but pick stuff up. And not only that, we've been talking about this week after week after week, and you listening to us, you're picking up a bunch of stuff, but us talking about it, we're picking up even more. So yes, we do research. Rob does a lot of research. You can hear that with what he does. He brings a tremendous amount of information to this podcast. That's because he spends a lot of time doing research.
Yep.
He absolutely does. He's above and beyond all that. He's very smart. There's no doubt about that. Oh. He's also very dedicated, and he's enthusiastic about the podcast, about the topic. He would be doing much of this research anyways.
That is true.
If he wasn't on this podcast. We are just benefiting for him sharing that research that he was going to do and post to a forum someplace, and somebody's going to say, well, you should just DIY it anyways. That's what on the other hand, I bring more of a just years of being in the industry, a little bit of industry insider knowledge, a lots of experience as far as listening to different things and talking with industry experts and that sort of thing. And I do my own research as well. I don't do nearly as much as Rob, but I have 3 kids. Sorry, dude. That sucks up a ton of my time. If somebody would like to come over here and babysit for literally just 2 hours. 2 hours is what it would take for me to get beefed up on a little bit more on these topics. But most of the time, like today, an hour before this podcast starts, I'm running around trying to take care of I have a 6-7-year-old, right? Not 6-7, a sick 7-year-old right now who's got 103.2 fever. My wife is out there dealing with him right now. And I didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare for the podcast. So I did what I could, looked up what I could. Like that last question, I wasn't able to do the research on that subwoofer like I should have, but I had Rob, so he's kind of my parachute, my little AV parachute. So it is a mixture of us doing a lot of research, us having done this for so long, and just a love of the topic.
Yeah, to me, it's like anybody who is a real enthusiast about a given topic. Like, ask me about football stats, I got nothing. I don't know who's playing. I don't know the names of all the teams. I certainly can't tell you the stats about stuff.
I can't tell you 3 baseball teams. I can probably tell you 3 because they talk about them in the movies all the time. But let's be realistic. If you ask me to name a dozen baseball teams, I might get through half that list.
Sure.
Maybe.
So, I will marvel at the sports fanatics who have stats like that off the top of their head. But it's the same thing, right? Sometimes people will look at the way that we're talking about home theater and go, how do you remember like model numbers and the size of things and what year things came out? It's like, It's just because we're immersed in it. It's what we like. It's our hobby, and the same goes for gearheads, right? I'm like, I will marvel at the guys who can just sit there and talk about cars for hours and hours and hours. I enjoy cars to a certain level, but nothing like real gearheads do.
No.
And they have the stats on different engines and everything, and the model years and everything right off the top of their head. So to me, that's really all it is. Our passion happens to be home theater, so we're like a gearhead talking about cars, except we're talking about speakers and subwoofers. That's all.
That's right. That's what it comes down to, And we want to share this. And the thing that that unites Rob and I on this podcast, Rob and me, Rob and I. I'm gonna have to think about that one for a second. The thing that unites us is us wanting to make sure that you are getting the information you need without all the BS that's out there.
Well, it's also the information we would have liked to have gotten when we were starting out,
You
right?
do not even know, dude.
We wasted so much time and money, and we're like, man, if we can help people skip the line, and like buy the thing that will make them happy for many years the first time, and the next time they upgrade, it's going to be a real worthwhile upgrade, and they didn't waste a pile of money and time in between. Although, hey, there's something to be said for learning things the hard way. Sometimes that's how
I would rather
we
save
did
you
it.
$1,000 than have you buy an external amplifier thinking it's going to make this massive change to the sound in your home theater, and afterwards going, I think I hear something.
Yeah.
I think I hear something. I feel like I should hear something. I just spent $1,000. I don't hear nothing. I don't want that to happen to you. I don't want that to happen to you. All right. So, Galen, I hope that answers your question. Vince and Larry will be on next week. If you sent if you sent a question and it arrived on Monday, the 29th,
and we have a few. The 29th. We have a few.
Then you did not make the list at all. But if you sent it in before that and your name is not Vince or Larry, then you need to resend it because we sometimes miss things. Like I missed Bruce. I'm glad. Who caught that? Was that you that caught that?
That was that. Yeah, I noticed that in his email. Yeah.
Okay. Bruce donated and I missed it. So Bruce, thank Rob for catching that because I totally missed it. So let's thank our listeners of the week one more time. It's Jay, Charles, Jim, Carl, and Bruce.
That's right, as well as Jason S. for letting SVS know that he ordered 2 PC2000s thanks to his wife. So there you go. It's an awesome story.
We had very little to do with that. If you can figure out how we can make other people's wives do that, we could make up
there you go.
$1 zillion on this podcast.
But yes, once again, Jay, Charles, Jim, Carl, and Bruce, thank you all very much for the donations as well.
And thank you, Jason, for talking this up to SVS. That has helped, as you can clearly see.
Absolutely.
It's helping in getting you guys a free pair of PB1000s or a 5.1 prime satellite system that will be in our 500th episode contest starting on September 1st. So visit www.avrant.com for that. Sign up with your email address, and we will let you know in October, very early in October, SVS will be contacting you about that, and we will announce whatever you want us to announce about you on the podcast. We'll have to say something or people will think that we just didn't give anything away. But I personally, I'm not going to require this. I would personally appreciate a picture of them when they arrive. If you don't want to be in the picture or you don't want to give anything away, a thumb up, just like your thumb, and 2 boxes with subs in them would be fantastic, just so that we could post it on the podcast page so people would know that on the Facebook page. So if you want to get your question answered on our podcast, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. You can CC Rob at avrant, Tom at avrant. Go to the website www.avrant.com. Leave us a comment there or a PayPal donation, as Jay, Charles, Jim, Carl, and Bruce did this week by clicking on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link. Go to facebook.com/avrant podcast for our Facebook page where we were very active. Twitter at First Reflect for Rob, at avrant_Tom for me, and at Austin Pond for Austin, our producer. Austin has his own podcast as we watch movies. It is a podcast about baseball.
Okay.
Baseball stats. He knows them all the stats. He knows all the baseball stats. He knows them. He's got all the RIBs. Is it RIBs? I think it's RIBs.
Could be.
I don't know what it is.
RBIs, but
is it earn
runs batted in?
I know what it is. I'm an American, damn it. I have to know that. They make me. Anyways, for AV Rant, I'm Tom Andring.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.